Let me introduce you Carla, Professor Carla Figueira de Morrison Faria. She was born in Brazil. She completed her master in physics at the University of Sao Paulo in Brazil, followed by a PhD at the Max Born Institute in Berlin, in Germany, on strong field and attosecond physics. She then became a postdoctoral research at Max Planck Institute for Physics of Complex Systems in Dresden, followed by postdoctoral researcher at the MBI in Berlin, the Technical University in Vienna, and the University of Hanover. In 2005, she moved to the UK as a university research fellow at the Department of Mathematics at UCL, where she became a lecturer in 2006, followed by lectureship in 2007 at the Department of Physics and Astronomy at the same university, UCL, and then promoted to reader and then to professor in 2018. She leads her own research group. She authored about 100 publications and received several awards, including an EPSRC Advanced Research Fellow in 2006, and most recent received in 2021 the IOP Joseph Thomson Medal and Prize. She is the first female physics professor in the UK of mixed black background, first South American winner of the IOP Thomson Medal. She has a very wide range of interest, and in particular, looking at extreme condition on matter, looking at very, very high intensities and very short time scales. Her talk today will be on strong fields, ultra-fast time scales, and being an unusual scientist, she will share with us a few things that she learned on the way. Professor Carla, thank you.
So thank you so much for the invitation. I really appreciate that, and I hope my talk will be able to help and also to incite discussion. So to start with, I first will talk about the physics, and then I'll talk about the physicist. As I understand, this is a talk about also my journey. So in my research area, we deal with very, very, very intense laser fields. This is a plot where you can see in decades and the focused intensity that you achieve with that. And nowadays, we're not talking about just something that is going to burn your hand. You are talking about laser fields that can actually, in principle, we are not there yet, but polarize vacuum and do all sorts of things. And so this is a very, very, very extreme field of research, if you wish. And if you realize, you look at this plot, you see that there is a plateau from 1970 until to 1985. And because today is also a day in which we are celebrating women in science and we are physicists, I would like to point out that this was possible also because of one of the 4 women who have won the Nobel Prize, was Donna Strickland. You can see her in this picture. If it weren't for her, my area wouldn't exist. So it's a good way to start a talk about women in science. And if you are talking about also strong field physics, you have to talk about attosecond science, because these pulses with which you can achieve these intensities, they're very, very, very high, and they are very short as well. And all the phenomena that occur in this context, they take place within a fraction of the field, which means that they can be used to control and to trace electron dynamics in real time. This is a plot that you can see really all the time scales that exist, and you see these are some of the shortest time scales in nature. So all the rest is here to the right-hand side, but if you look at attoseconds, you see that these are typically the times for which it takes an electron to go through atomic distances. So that's why the interest, and that's why this is so important. And I've been working on that since the late 1990s, early 2000s. My research lines deal with novel approaches for attosecond physics. So that's why also I was awarded this medal recently by the IOP, because we deal with methods that are sometimes from mathematical physics or from other areas. And it's very important to bear in mind that the normal methods in optics, they just don't hold in these very, very intense regimes. And because you want to trace and you want to see what is happening with dynamical processes in matter, an application of these methods is for imaging and control. And I also study with my group myriad of strong field phenomena. So we look at harmonic generation, above thresholdization, or sequential harmonization. I'm not going to explain what these things are, but pretty much is if you hit a target with such intense light, you can get a generation of very, very, very high harmonics, meaning light, which has very high frequency, or photoelectrons, and they lead to all these types of processes. And just to give you an idea, I'm not going to talk about my publications, but this is something we are very proud of, because people have always claimed, and this is not sequential diagonalization, this is a correlated two-electron process, and people always claim that this was like an example of classical electron-electron correlation. And suddenly we found that many of the things people were looking at, they were quantum interference, especially if you are in a regime which excitation is important. And we then showed that, in fact, it was quantum interference, and that some of the features that were identified in experiments, they could be traced to quantum interference effect. And we even have some equations for these hyperbolas and all these things. So these effects are very robust, and actually we're a bit rogue because we're challenging some assumptions that people made since 20 years that this was classical. And we were happy about the fact that the world is more quantum than one thinks. And the other one is a method that we had to create, which is semi-analytical, which is the first path integral method to describe quantum interference in this context, but taking into account also the residual binding potential. So this is very nice. Okay, I'm biased because we invented it, but this is one of the most advanced methods, and we needed to bring elements from mathematical physics to come up with that. And we work on all sorts of other things. So I was born in Belém, which is Amazon Delta, in Brazil in the 1970s. I did my undergrad and master's at the University of São Paulo in the early 1990s. Then I moved to Berlin, where I did my PhD. It's an amazing time because Berlin was being reunited. So I really enjoyed that. We had, and then I had many postdocs in Germany and Austria, then back to Germany. And then I came to London, more with long-term fellowships and permanent positions. Now, I am already underrepresented because I'm a woman, and we know that in physics, we fare pretty badly, because if you look at the professors who are women, is like 11%. I think now maybe be a bit bigger. But that's not all. I'm also underrepresented because I'm what in Brazil we call a parda. So this means that I look pretty much, as you can see, Afro-European, which is Dad's family, although I also descend from indigenous people. So this is actually a brilliant place in the Amazon where you can see the sun go down. Very nice bar. If you go there, do have a look.
Beautiful. Carla, may I interrupt you for a minute? Can you please reshare your PowerPoint, because there are missing informations from the slides?
But I'm sharing, no?
You are sharing. It's just there are some bits missing from the slides. Can
So
you
how do I
stop
do
and
this?
just stop sharing?
I stop sharing.
Yes, sorry for interrupting you. It's just a
No.
shame some of the bits are missing. And just trying to reshare your PowerPoint presentation as it is.
Okay. Let me see. So I stopped sharing.
Yes.
I need.
Sorry for interrupting. It's a shame. It's there are some missing bits.
Okay. Desktop window. Window. This and share. And let's start. And also,
better now.
can
Yes.
you see better?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
So let's not underestimate this. I'm also a foreigner. So where I was born, this is not a big deal because Belém is a big harbor. So we are 70% of the population. I am very posh. I'm very pale. But this is like a bubble, and this is something that you have to bear in mind. So here you see the proportion of people who are born with this ethnicity in the states of Brazil. So Pará is where you have like the highest proportion. So actually there is a joke that people say everybody looks like Slash there. Okay. Not that there's no racism or colorism, there is, but I was lucky enough to be privileged in the sense that I'm on the pale side of it. Now, my dad has Afro-European background and my mom descends from indigenous people. It seems to be a big deal here. So this is actually something that shocked when I read this in The Guardian, because I saw that like they were saying, okay, there are 25 black women. It was a few years ago, and 19 black men. I said, wow, this is crazy. So maybe I'm in the mixed, maybe I'm in the black, but I'm definitely super underrepresented. And when I read this, it was like a bit of a shock. So yeah, it's still too few. Maybe now there are a bit more. But I found this horrifically sad. And I started also to think about the boxes that you even get here, which is a big way to start talking about stereotypes. Because when you come to England and you're coming from Germany, which was something that happened to me, I had this HR box, which everybody has to fill in. And first, every German is going to tell you that there's something very suspicious when people ask you about your ethnicity. Although I think this is also used to throw stuff under the rug. But then you look, okay, not white. Mixed. Yeah, maybe this. But obviously is not I'm not from the Caribbean, I'm not from Africa, not Bangladeshi, not Asian, black African Caribbean, maybe black other, not Arab. So yeah, so you have these two. They don't make any sense, and actually you see very clearly that they reflect pretty much British colonization. And if you're coming from somewhere else, you're foreigner, you just look what is this about. Then okay, so you go for mixed other, because it's like black Southern European and indigenous. It still doesn't make sense. And you wonder why that people in the global north, especially if you're talking about white people, they're always the people who provide the boxes, and why we are always trying they're always trying to oversimplify us and put us in neat groups where none of us are in neat groups. Nobody, not even the people White Cross there. And a key issue when you hear about talks about women in science is to talk about intersectionality, because this term was coined by Professor Kimberly Crenshaw, and she is absolutely right that you not only deal with sexism in your life, but if you're a foreigner and you're not white, you have to deal with racism and also xenophobia, and these intersectional systems of oppression. They're going to come together, and is not going to be that easy for you. Although, yes, you can overcome and you can be successful, but ideally, they shouldn't be there, neither of the three. And this matters because if you look at a typical Women and Equalities Committee, you see that they look like this. It's like only white women, or mostly white women. I don't know what these women stand for, but I found the example very good because for me they look very similar. And every time you hear people talking about women and minorities, you do have the impression that these things don't intersect, and that people unconsciously, they're not seeing that these things do intersect. And well, when I did high school and also my initial studies, which was where I was born, I wasn't subject to a lot of stereotypes, which I think it was, for me, good because context does matter. So this is me. This is the people I was studying with. You see a lot of women. You see 3 white people. And this is our physics teacher, who was amazing. So I decided to study physics. I went to São Paulo and the situation has already changed. Can you realize what is wrong with the demographics? This is when I graduated. So this picture is not representative of the Brazilian population. You have 2 women, or no, 3. You have 1 person of mixed heritage in the room, 1 person of Black heritage in the whole room. And then you keep on wondering, because the Brazilian population, like 56% are dark skins, the pretos, or pardo, like me, like person of mixed heritage. And you see that because this is one of the most reputed institutions in the country, you see that they have no access to this. So majority is also defined how you hold the power and how you hold the resources. And I went to Berlin, I fell in love, got married, was a really great time. So now the hashtag looks like this. When I came, it looked like that. I don't know if you see that point. It was me in the 1990s. Had a great time. The Max Born Institute is an amazing place. And I learned also that every one of us, independent where you come from, need to learn history and to accept the dark aspects of our history. And I'm not surprised that there are sectors of society here who go strongly against this, because whoever controls the past controls the future. And what really impressed me in Germany is that they acknowledge this. They have national shame monuments. They're very common. This is a picture of me in the Holocaust Memorial. And people are much more aware of the consequences of racism and fascism. I'm not going to say these things don't exist there, but what I see is that here there is a reluctance to accept the dark chapters of the British history. And it's something that we need to do this. We need to do this in Brazil as well. And well, you can say I have a pretty good CV. I'm not going to discuss this in detail, but I pretty much met all the milestones. I'm successful, things go well, etc., etc. But I also had to deal with a lot of things, which again, I'm not going to discuss in a huge amount of detail. We're not here to say, we suffered, but obviously if you come from Brazil, if you come from the north, which is a region that is plundered for resources, the Amazon, then you go to the south, 1990, you have to deal with racism. You come to Europe, you have a culture shock. You try to go back to Brazil, sometimes it doesn't work. You have to also deal with your private life. So bullying since I was 4 years old. So yeah, I hope this is not too negative for people, but it is true. So also, although I agree that excellence is a big, 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 big thing, uh, for a woman, it's always going to be much more difficult to buy equipment, organize events, obtain funding, and publish in high impact journals because it depends a lot of how you are perceived and how you are seen. And many times there are unconscious biases that come together with this experience and also conscious ones. And you have to deal also with support staff, senior management, and many times you experience sometimes condescending attitudes. Also, bad mentoring. We're talking here about women in science. So it's important to say that we need to be careful with what we tell other women because it's always we have to change and not the system has to change. So we need to be more caring, not to talk much meeting or talk too much or have children, not to have children, which reinforces stereotypes. It's always you who have to change. And I'm not going even to start to talk about referee reports that they tend to be harsher. It's difficult to prove, but it's something I have observed. And if you think all women are supportive, I mean, I was really lucky to have great allies and great supporters my whole career, but some of them are worse than what you would imagine. And these workplace problems are viewed as catfight by senior management. And assertive women may be perceived as bully some are, okay, but bullies, they may weaponize HR and also all these things that that are in place to protect you against you, and not against you only, against your group, because they come after everybody, your postdocs, your students. So it can be a nightmare. It doesn't mean that I don't like what I do. I'm successful. And what I would like to tell you is that much more important than the aim is the journey. And your timeline may be rough or may be smooth, depends on how you look at things. Okay. And I think a big piece of advice is do not worry too much about, do not be a horrible person, of course, but do not worry too much about pleasing people and fitting in. And also be careful of tokenism and cultural taxation, because if you are a person from an underrepresented group, obviously, you're going to be a role model, whether you like it or not. You do have some responsibility. And because you have been through rough patches as well, you do want things to change. But you need to be careful not to be exploited. And if you are just a token, you're not going to change a lot. And there have been studies that show that this is in fact the case. Also, be careful of pastoral tasks, especially if you want to be a researcher. I mean, they can give you powerful lessons. I was, for instance, undergraduate admissions tutor until 2019, absolutely hated it. But I learned a lot on the way about politics, interpersonal skills, time management. I think it was also quite used to break stereotypes of what a physicist should be. Again, intersectionality was a big issue. And I am really sad to have to say that, but we do need to be careful with some parts of the sisterhood because there are many people who are unbelievably competitive, sometimes unhealthily competitive. And from my own experience, I can say that some of the worst people I have ever met in my life are women. They're great women as well. But if you are an early career researcher, don't be that person. You don't need to succeed at any cost. The way is more important than the aim. Try to have integrity, try to have ethics, and please don't do this kind of thing, because this lean in culture leads too much to people behaving in this way. And if you're a woman of color, this is particularly true. When I read this Stay in Power by Nicola Rowlock in 2019, I thought, oh my God, I wasn't interviewed, okay, disclaimer, but I thought, oh my God, this is my life. because a lot of these things do happen, and people say consciously they are in favor of feminism and they are feminists, but they behave in ways that actually reinforce the patriarchy, and they're only looking at a very, very narrow version of feminism, which is white feminism. And sometimes to cause disruption, you need to go beyond the diversity bubble, because unfortunately, there are these people who want to change the culture, who wants to change things, but they may not talk to your peers, okay? And your peers, they control the gates. They control the gates towards conferences. They control the gates toward journals. So sometimes you have to do something that is disruptive and is not even tagged as diversity. So for instance, we have been organizing conference only focused on controversy and online. And I think a big issue with the pandemic is that it was horrible for everybody, but there were silver linings, and one was to explore the potential of online conferences, because you need much fewer resources to do this kind of thing. And if you look, what we have done is we organized a conference only about controversy. We put emphasis on early career researchers. We invited a lot of people from everywhere. We had 300 people from 35 countries. But what is the most important is they were from countries that normally do not attend these events, namely people from the global south, because typically you need money to travel somewhere, you need visas to travel somewhere. So these kinds of things, all for free and so on, eliminated a lot of barriers. And also we run a seminar series, which was, now we have women, but was organized by my group and was all organized by women. And we made sure that 50% of the speakers were women, and there are enough amazing women doing great work that can be invited. And you can see, for instance, here, it's me sharing here on the right-hand side, then my group who are running this with me, and a speaker who is a woman. And you'd see, it looks like, as I said at the beginning, this is like a diversity panel, but it's not. It's a physics panel. We're discussing physics. And not that diversity panels are not important, they are, but we need to go beyond, because these bubbles, they don't talk to each other. And I always look at the big picture. It used to be much worse, because I was born in the 1970s. In the 1870s, they were selling or seeking people who would escape, who looked like me, like pardas. If you look at all these things, all these announcements, they are of people looking for slaves who had just run away, and they were pardas. Okay. So I was born in 1970 to a posh family, had a good life. And always, when things are bad, I always like to remind myself that there has been huge progress, although we are not quite there yet. And as I said, because we're not quite there yet, the struggle continues. And just to close, how can you help? Invite us also to talk about our science, because we are scientists. We are socially engaged. We're trying to do our things, but this type of talk also takes time. It takes emotional labor. So invite us to talk about our science, fund us, support us, cite us. We have difficulty for all these kinds of things. And also inviting us to talk about science is going to help us in this way, because your citations or the funding that you get and everything is going to depend on the visibility that you have with regard to your physics. Also, never take for granted that we're going to talk about our traumas. This is some really, really bad equality and diversity that is around there, that I think people are going to come to some panel. They're going to talk about racial trauma, or they're going to talk about sexism, and then nothing happens, and it's like emotionally unbelievably taxing. So our suffering is not someone else's entertainment. And do acknowledge these things take time and they take effort. So sometimes by wanting to help, what you're doing is you are even widening the gap, because you start to invite underrepresented people to talk about this all the time. And a white male is gonna just publish another paper. So he's gonna have more papers than you. And I mean, you are measured by these indicators. And also, it shouldn't be about making the workplace more diverse, but we need to start challenging the current power structures. Are they right? Are they inclusive? And just to close, I'm going to finish my talk with a Simone de Beauvoir quote, which says that the point is not only for women simply to take power over men or out of men's hands, because this wouldn't change anything about the world. So this is a criticism of this lean-in culture that is just, okay, we just have to make things more diverse, they're going to get better. No, they won't, because it's our question of destroying that notion of power, of seeking something else, because this is not working. Okay? And just to close, I would like really to thank you for your attention. I'm looking a lot of windows.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Carla, for this talk. I know that you have other commitments and you will have to escape. I will let one or two questions, if possible, from anyone who wants. I have lots of comments to make. Anyone wish to? Angela.
Thank you it's been really, really, really inspirational. Thank you so much for that. I've particularly, the key message I'm taking away is not to please others, and I think that's really important message that you put out there. But on the other hand, I think it's not really a question, really. It's more of a comment. I think it's just trying to grapple with that, because obviously when we do confront our colleagues about different issues, we can be seen as catfighting women, as the words that you mentioned, or as disruptive, etc. So it's finding that right balance. And I don't know if you can offer further advice to kind of counteract this, because obviously, we all experience these similar kind of barriers of working with colleagues and bullying and so forth. I'd just be interested to see your comment. I'm sorry, that's not really a great question, but
I mean, it's again that point. You are always going to be seen as disruptive because you are the disruption. Okay. So there's not much you can do about it. You just have to find the balance not to harm you so much. Okay. But you are always going to be seen as disruptive. So all this effort to please people, you have to be nice. You find a lot of nice people and a lot of people who can see through these things that they are going to be aware, but many won't. So you can call attention, or sometimes you can ignore, because unfortunately my experience is that the current systems don't work. So you need to protect yourself. You need to construct your network, sometimes outside the institutions. You need to sometimes say, yeah, I'm disruptive, let me be disruptive, but obviously you have to know how to be disruptive. You're not going to be a martyr. But all these diversity initiatives that I see, people talk always too much about how you fit in, how you lean in, how you adapt to the dominant culture. But if you do that, you're always going to be a token, And this is something that we really need to take into consideration. Is this something you want to do? If you disrupt too much, maybe you don't go to the top, okay? But people are always coming to you and saying something because you are going to be the disruption. So, well, yes, I don't know. I really don't know what to say. Just forget about these people. Try to navigate. See who your allies are. And also bear in mind that you cannot fight all the battles. Some you can fight, some you
Some
cannot.
you don't, and it's fine. I guess you choose your battles. You made a good point over here, but that it is true. Sorry for interrupting, Carla. Just to add something into this, everything you said, I think we all agree in that. But there is also this problematic bit is the practice, as you mentioned, because in theory everything is there, statistics is there. We can talk about them, but problematic is a little bit the practice in order to overcome all these things that you mentioned. The truth is,
Yeah, I mean, certain things are not going to change in your lifetime. Okay, it is a fact, and I mean, as I said, there has been a lot of work which extended beyond our lifetime. We have to keep on trying. I mean, it's very frustrating that a lot of institutions, they just keep on collecting data. People keep on being bullied, and they collect more data. I think what is a big problem is accountability. Because you can have amazing data, you can have amazing policies if they're not put into place, and if the system can be weaponized against a person who is suffering from this, it's not going to help. So I mean, a big issue is accountability, because these things are very difficult to enforce, but at the same time you want to get on with your life. Okay, so sometimes you have to create a disruption, you have to strengthen your network outside the institution, you have to keep on pushing your profile as a scientist. And it's a big burden, and you have also to see how many hours and how much time of your life you want to invest in these initiatives, because the person who is burdened with these initiatives is the same person who has to do research, is the same person who is maybe being bullied, and it is just a fact that this is going to affect your science. You are one person. Okay, so that's why at the very beginning I asked you, okay, how long is this? How
well,
yeah,
shame
this is being recorded. Is it because you need to have this information? People cannot expect that you are always going to do that. Okay, I'm not telling you I'm half telling you off, but this is because you are learning also in the curve. But you cannot expect that people are going to do that, and because they have to survive, they have to take these things into consideration. And if you don't, you are going to be what people call a diversity martyr, that you are going to sacrifice yourself, and then people are going to say, yeah, but she didn't do enough in her field. Okay, and then it is an issue, because you have obviously by the way, I didn't like the comment escravizaura, just making it clear, but anyway, we can clarify that later.
Sorry, what was that?
No, I'm coming back to that later. But anyway,
that was me.
Yes.
It wasn't about you. It was about knowing the culture in which you are operating, because I'm Portuguese. So apologies if I offended you.
Okay, cheers. No problems. But it's,
I know exactly. That's why I put it there. It was not a comment about you. It was about what the things that you were describing.
Yes, okay. Yeah, cheers. Thank you. But you see, I have a big mouth, so I had to ask. But I agree. I mean, and actually, people from Portugal, they can put me like racially immediately. They know where I stand, right?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, which is a parda, pretty much, right? So yeah. So that's why you have to be absolutely ruthless with your time, because this is a problem that was created by others, and that's why we need to understand history. Because people, if they don't understand history, they're not going to understand that there is a historical depth with underrepresented people. And they think, it's okay. They go and they talk about diversity, and maybe we give them a seat at the table. No, we want a change, and we need to study history and put and see throughout history that change has not happened because someone was nice to us. No, it helped because of disruption, because of insurgents. So you always have to find the balance. But if you are thinking that you're going to be nice and please people and things are not going to change, I always thought in my life that because I have big problems with authority, I always thought it was a hindrance for my career, but nowadays I am convinced that it was not. You know, it's something was, I mean, I was very lucky in Germany. It was a brilliant place. Actually, in the institute I was working, I didn't feel discriminated. I had lots of issues with authority, okay, but it's because of the culture. But nowadays, I think my issues with authority actually have helped me. In a way, it was a bit tricky, you know, but you need to take all these things into consideration.
Absolutely, absolutely, Carla. Thank you for your talk and for the things you shared. You definitely let us a good food for thought and for discussion afterwards. I'll pass on any more comments from any of the people. Happy to do it afterwards, and I will have to move on to our next guest. Thanks again for all the things you shared.
Yeah, sorry, I have to leave. Take care, everybody. I have another commitment now, very soon. So take care, everybody. It was a pleasure.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
See you guys.
See you soon.